Hello, everybody. Greetings to all. Welcome to the Snooker Hall podcast. I'm Dan Murren. The snooker season is well underway, and I have to say I've been neglecting the playing side of the podcast so far this season. So I think we should remedy that today. Today's guest on the podcast has been a pro for a fair few years now. Over those years, he has scored victories over some former world champions: Ken Doherty, Luca Brissell, Kyron Wilson, Stuart Bingham. It is an honour to welcome Allan Taylor to the Snooker Hall podcast.
Thanks very much for having me, Dan. How are you, mate?
Yeah, pretty good today. Pretty good. I can't complain. It's the sky outside is overcast. Doesn't really cut it. It's just straight up grey. Yeah, it's
We
But
must be under
yeah,
the same. We must be under the same sky, mate. I tell you what, same here, same here.
but no, I've just finished watching some good snooker this morning, and let's talk about some snooker. Where are you from?
So I'm originally from Birkenhead on the Wirral in Merseyside. I've moved about a little bit. I moved down to Essex for a few years with she was the girlfriend then, but she's now the wife. And then I've moved back up to the kind of the homeland of the Wirral, like so. That's me, mate, for me sins.
So snooker, Merseyside. The most famous name, or the name that immediately springs to mind, John Parrott. I don't
Yeah,
know if is that was he one of your
yeah.
snooker heroes growing up, or were there other people you?
No, to be fair, I was kind of I was more of a, obviously, the usual boring answer of Ronnie and Hendry. So I say boring answer, but not boring players. I remember being part of like a junior group. We had a Saturday morning club. We were called the Young Guns. We used to travel around and play other clubs and other juniors in like home and away matches. And we got invited down to Preston Guildhall to watch the Grand Prix. I think it was then. It might have even been the LG Cup or something along them lines. And we were in the Q zone and we were getting interviewed and we were on the TV, and me and another lad, Steve Wellesby, his name was. He doesn't play anymore now, but we got asked who our favourite player was. I think he said Ronnie. And for the fact that he said Ronnie, I said John Higgins, because I didn't want to just be a copycat. And the question was, what's wrong with John Parrott? And we all just went, we don't know. But we didn't realise that he was standing about 10 paces away. And he looked at us and went, thanks, lads. Not the fact that we didn't know what was wrong with him. We just didn't know why we didn't pick him.
Yeah,
But anyway, that's that.
I've seen, I've seen a few
He
times
took
on TV those moments where they'll ask, "Oh, so what do you think of this musician?" And they'll say, "Yeah, that latest album's awful," and then they'll just be standing right by, "Oh, yeah." And yeah, the embarrassment and yeah, so
yeah,
what's wrong
yeah,
with my music? It's
yeah.
yeah.
It's a good job. He takes it well. He's a nice lad. Yeah,
Yeah, good sense of humour, John. Yeah, good sense of
yeah,
humour. Yeah,
yeah.
but so okay, so snooker you watched when you were a youngster. When you were a youngster makes you sound old, but I think you're younger than me actually. But it's which other sports do you follow?
I don't really follow many other sports. I'll be totally honest with you. I mean, it's one of them that if it's on the TV and kind of, say like the darts or something along them lines. But I've just actually moved practice facilities. I've moved to a local place, Bidston Golf Club. So I've kind of, just for that reason, I've joined and trying to get a bit of social outside of playing. And for that reason, it just becomes an instant addiction where you think, right, I'm going to watch golf now because I think I can play. And then obviously it's just like when I was a kid watching the snooker, and just thinking they make it look so easy. But I can believe, I spend half my time in the bushes trying to find my ball, mate.
Yes, well, the Ryder Cup's been on recently. That's got a lot of people into it again.
Yeah, yeah, for the right or wrong reasons, I don't know. But I think it was good to see everyone fired up. I just found it a bit strange that the fans that would potentially come and watch a standard ranking event or a tour event or whatever they call it, and they would be cheering on the player, they'd be cheering on the shot, they'd be cheering on the game. All of a sudden, as soon as you choose a side, it goes a little bit nasty, doesn't it?
Yeah, the partisan nature kicks in. It's like he's not American. We can't cheer him. Boo! It's
Yeah, yeah, exactly
yeah.
that. You're not wearing a red cap, you're not our friend, kind of thing.
I lived in Seattle for about 7 years, and a few of my buddies there were big golf fans, and
Mm,
they were sending me messages throughout. God, these fans are a disgrace.
yeah,
Like, come on, it's like sport. healthy
Yeah,
banter, totally
yeah,
fine, of course. But when they're like actually abusing the players, it's like, come on, guys, like
yeah. I mean, even we
chill
don't get
out.
that in the shootout. You know, we get a bit of barracking, but
Yeah,
it's most of the time it's friendly. Like,
yeah. If you refuse to pot the yellow, or you go for a green instead of a yellow, the crowd
you
will
know,
let you have it, of course.
like,
But
yeah, you'll get booed
my
off the
God,
stage.
it's
Yeah,
but at least they're not going to be, shouting abuse at your family. Yeah, I thought, yeah, they took it too far. I think, yeah,
yeah, they did. Yeah,
they.
yeah. All for the game of golf, eh?
I suppose with golf, I think there is a similarity in terms of okay, hand-eye coordination,
Hmm.
composure. You need talent to play golf, like you need talent to play snooker.
Yeah.
When did you realise that? Yeah, I might not be too bad at this. I'll give this a shot. When was the?
I don't know. I think when I started playing when I was 7, and it was just purely because my brother got a 6 foot foldaway snooker table from Argos for Christmas, and he's 2 years older than me, so he kind of got to mid-January and was like, "Nah, I'm bored of this," and kind of swapped toys because I was spending so much time in his bedroom that he was annoyed that his little brother was cramping his style, kind of thing. So I kind of took over the snooker side. Started going to play in a club when I was probably just before 8. Um, and then I've made my first century when I was 9 on a lineup. Took me a few years to make another one, like, but I made 107 when I was 9. I kind of find it hard to believe. Thinking back, I'm thinking, was I that good when I was 9? And I was probably a better player then than I am now because there was no habits, there was no, there was no negative thinking, there was no defeat, there was no battle scars. Um, but uh, but yeah, yeah, I think it was one of them where I think started to enter local tournaments in your local club, and I think it's at the stage where you play in the snooker leagues, and it's when the old generation or the captains of the other teams get annoyed that you're beating them, and they try and bar you from the clubs. Under 18s have got to be out by 7:30. Well, I went on at 7. I was normally done by about 10 past, quarter past. So so there was a few of them kind of arguments, yeah. And when they came to our home ground, I was like to my captain, "Put me on against him because he barred me last time, and then I just have to give him a whooping." But I mean, listen, they were for me the glory days of trying to taste victory and win like local snooker championships and stuff like that. But yeah, it's just then travel around to all the standard junior tournaments, and once you get a little taste for victory, you kind of take it a little bit more seriously then.
The young players. Well, I'm 40 years old now, and my high break is still 23. But on the WST socials recently, there was a 2-year-old, and oh my god, he's the cutest little fella, and he's got his little
Yeah,
waistcoat on,
yeah,
and
seeing it, yeah.
I think he might actually have a better cue action than me, with exaggeration aside. But
Yeah.
playing at 2 years old, you hear about the term child prodigy, you hear it in all sports, but
Mhm.
if you don't start when you're a kid, I guess it's almost impossible to
Yeah,
really make a dent, isn't it?
it is. It is. I just think the struggles we've got nowadays is obviously just kind of real life. The social media side of things, the kind of the influencer lifestyle where everyone wants to make a quick buck. And there's a lot of of people who are not willing to put in the hours. But what you realise, if you start as a kid, you'd have your 10,000 hours done before you were kind of a teenager. So and I think it was just pure enjoyment and something different. And then you're going from a small table to a big table, and you've got that challenge. I mean, I used to stand on a beer crate, and kick that around the table. And I've just recently seen on the socials there, it was a young Chinese lad who's playing hayball, or it might have even been the snooker, and he's got like massive platform shoes on. Just to say, and there's another young kid kicking around a massive cushion and stuff just to stand on to be able to play. And I say, you forget about all. I mean, I'm 40 myself, Dan, and you forget about all this, the struggles of kind of growth in a 12 foot by 6 table, mate. I could hardly peer over the side of it, but yeah, I mean, I think like the young guns now, they've got such a great opportunity as well. I think the game's kind of rejuvenating grassroots. There's so many opportunities to play that if you can get a talent and you can see it early, you kind of it's more of a gentle encouragement. I think gone are the days where you're kind of pushing your kids into playing a sport because you play it. But if they do take an interest, just try and find out. And if it's snooker, well then God forbid, mate. Because it's not. I mean, and this is a serious point. It's not probably one of the best games for mental health. Because you spend a lot of time isolated. You're playing in silence. You're in your own head, thinking a lot. In matches, you don't really talk apart from good luck and thanks very much to the ref. A lot of solo hours in the club, in a dark, dingy club. There's no sunlight. You're traveling alone. You're in hotel rooms, and there's not many victories. There's only one winner every tournament.
True.
But yeah, I mean, that aside, if you can ignore all them factors, hopefully people won't get to that stage. But yeah, I mean, as I say, the juniors now, if they do start playing, there's so many opportunities for them.
Well, the rewards are definitely better than they used to be. If you
Yeah,
become world champion, I mean, you can make an excellent living out of snooker.
yeah, I
And
mean,
I think when you see how competitive other sports are, it's the same with snooker, I suppose, but there's less spots on the
mm,
snooker tour. There are
yeah,
92 football clubs in the league, and there's some beyond that as well. And most of those players you would think make at least a comfortable living. Obviously, the top
mhm,
players earn millions,
yeah,
but
exactly, yeah,
you hear about the tennis players. If you're in the top 32 seeded
mm.
tennis players, then yeah, you're making big bucks. But if you're ranked like 112, then you're barely making ends meet, and that's, I suppose, the disparity. I don't know if it's that bad in snooker, but
It's probably not far off. Obviously, the numbers aren't the same. They don't tally up. There's a few zeros missing off the tennis and the snooker
yeah,
prize
compared to
funds.
tennis, yeah,
But
the
at the
goals as
same
well.
time, yeah, we're not running around constantly for like 5 or 6 hours, trying to, we're playing a couple of frames and think we're hard done by. So it's potentially relevant. Obviously, it's improved over the years. Obviously, everyone talks about the Barry Hearn era where he's come in and, just injected a load of prize money. There's a lot of obviously hard work that goes on behind the scenes to get all these tournaments on. But like you say, prize money and opportunity now, even on the grassroots. I mean, I think the Q Tour this season that I think they've put it's just a couple of thousand, maybe even 5 or 6 thousand for a win. So what if you win one of them and you turn pro? You're funding yourself for the first quarter of the season,
Yeah,
to get to qualifiers and book a few flights and such. Um, but listen, mate, as your health as life goes on, and so does families and stuff like that, and mortgages, and everyone's got to earn a living. Um, and I mean, say the opportunities are there. There's players earning over 1 million a season.
yeah,
Judd a couple, and he's kind of, people say, oh, he's living the dream, but I mean, listen, his dream started 30 years ago. So it's
yeah.
about time. It's about
He
time
was
that kind of that money was available. There was only 6 tournaments back then, I would imagine.
yeah, when he was a youngster, yeah, it wouldn't have been anywhere near what it is now. But hey, he's reaping rewards. But over the years, he's put in the work over the years.
Yeah, of
It's
course, you still got to do that. Like, you still got to work hard. You still got to kind of give yourself the best opportunity to be able to earn that kind of money. Everyone's in the same pot. Everyone can start at round one. Everyone can win the tournament. So you've only got yourself to kind of thank or to blame, really.
So I've spoken to a few players on the podcast and outside the podcast, and I think the attitude for most players is the same. If your opponent turns up and is playing a blinder,
Hmm.
I mean, there's not a great deal that you can do from your seat.
Yeah.
So I suppose I've got two questions based on this that I can think of. One will come on to recently when a player had, let's just say, a good performance against you,
I
kind of
know which one
memorable,
you. I know which
a
one you're
historic
saying. Yeah, but
performance.
carry on.
But recently, I got a couple of messages based on a previous episode about etiquette amongst players.
Yeah.
And if I was saying there's not much you can do from your seat, there is one thing you can do. It might not be within the rules, but that is maybe kind of distract your opponent a little bit. So I gave Michael Holt a bit of credit recently, actually, and with good reason, I think, because he was playing a rookie. I forget who the rookie was. but the rookie was kind of what's the word? Fidgeting
Hmm.
with their sleeve when he was taking his shots. And Michael just calmly said, "Look, could you stop doing that, please? Thanks."
Yeah,
And it stopped. And I just thought it was such a simple way. He didn't have to be rude about it. He was just
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah,
"Go on. I maybe you don't know you're doing it, but you are. Could you just be aware of it?"
yeah.
So that is something you could do. You could try, but then you'll be called out pretty quickly for it. Okay, right. We're going off on tangents. Let's cover them one by one. What's the etiquette there, in your
So
opinion?
yeah, so I totally agree with Holty there. I mean, my etiquette would be always to go direct to the player. I mean, I don't like to kind of go via the ref. Um, it's like telling the teacher kind of thing. And to be fair, that'll probably only notify them that they've got inside your head anyway. And so I'll just keep doing it. I've had it in the past where players are like, filling the drink up with ice while you're on the shot. Obviously, the usual, chalking away. You're playing maybe a yellow or a green into the corner bag, and they're sitting behind that pocket, and and they'll kind of be watching the other table. And then as you're on your backswing, they'll turn their head to watch and stuff like that. And it's stuff that they know they're doing. Sometimes it can be a bit subconscious, but I mean, even recently, I mean, I've not long had my second child. She's 5 weeks old, and I was playing in the English Open in Essex, and I was playing on with Dickme, and it got to I can't even remember the score, but I'm that tired. It's took me like 5.5 hours to drive down there. I've kind of not been sleeping and such. Um, and he's got up off his shot and he said, "Do you mind not chalking your cue while I'm down on my shot?" And I've stopped to speak to him and I said, "Sorry." And I've looked down and my chalk's on my tip and I went, "I'm really sorry, mate. Yes, I can. I do apologise." Because I was watching the other game because my brain was not engaged in the match because I'm kind of in like fight or flight mode. This is basically not in snooker, just normal life. And I was kind of, just took away, and I thought, okay, so now I am more conscious when he's at the table. Put your chalk away. Have the respect. You would hate it if someone was doing that to you, but I did appreciate the fact that he's turned to me and I said, yes, no problem, I do apologise, and that was it. So I've been guilty of it. I held my hand up, apologised, and we carried on with the match. But yeah, I mean, you kind of you see it all happening. You know what I mean? You do see it all happening. But yeah, I think the etiquette, Halsey was right there. You just go direct. And if it does stop, then you've got grounds for kind of the ref to step in. And I think going direct makes the referee aware of it as well. Because obviously the referee's got a job to do. He's focused on, or she's focused on the job in hand. And they'll be focusing on you, not touching the ball with your waistcoat or not feathering the white or just being in the right position, and they're not kind of engaged in the player in the seat as you shouldn't be. So just I mean, maybe just take a set of boxing gloves out, mate, and just sort it out in the car park afterwards. I don't know. Yeah,
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 Quinton hand style. Yeah, it's
yeah. That's the one, mate. Off of the mouse.
but this side, I suppose I've never really heard it expressed in that way before, and I suppose it is true. It is a silent sport. You hear the referee a lot more than you hear the players.
Yeah, yeah,
The only occasionally you'll see. I remember recently it was Kyron Wilson versus Judd Trump at, I forget which event it was, but they were talking about, is that cushion bouncing a lot more than you think? And it's like, well, I've played to land there, and
yeah,
they're kind of discussing, yeah, the cushion's off. So, but that's kind of rare when you see this. But I think the
yeah,
players, for the most part, obviously there's one, two exceptions, but they treat each other with respect. They speak respectfully. But this
yeah.
idea of silence, I've just thought of something I saw years ago on TV, and it was, speaking of John Parrott, actually, John Parrott he'd missed the shot and he was sitting in his chair while his opponent was clearing up to win the frame. And John was having a little chat with himself. Like you could see his lips moving to himself.
Mhm,
And the commentator said, John does like to have a little chat with himself. And maybe that was for him, how
mhm.
he would, I don't know,
Express. Yeah,
get out a little bit of frustration, maybe
yeah,
regain a bit of
yeah.
composure.
He's
And
venting internally, but externally
yeah,
vocalizing it. Yeah, yeah,
no, I thought that was interesting because you don't see it that often. Like you'll see, hit the cue on the floor or smack the table, or
yeah.
you can see them swing their arm. You can see little body language bits of frustration.
And
But
I've been guilty of all of them myself as well, mate.
go on, what's your
Yeah.
worst defense?
I've had a few Q bangs. Yeah, I've actually punched the table in victory. Just kind of pure frustration and kind of just more of annoyance really that it's took you so long to get over the line, or even just disappointments and stuff like that. But I say normally, try and hold everything in. Try and be graceful in victory and defeat. Like someone once told me that in fact, to tell you what it was, I was looking into it as a UCLA basketball coach, John Wooden. He's this historic, successful kind of college basketball coach. Good for the mindset, and he just said, "I don't want you to come off the court and somebody know the result before that they've asked you." So like I've come off smiling, and someone got, "How'd you get on?" I said, "Oh, I've just been beat 4-3." And they're like, "Well, why are you smiling?" I said, "Well, because there's nothing I can do about it now." Obviously you get in the car and the drive home's a different story. You can scream your lungs out to some heavy metal or some Scouse House music and get the frustration out. But um, you like to, like you say, you like to give the player the respect. I mean, they haven't walked over the line. You haven't missed balls on purpose. You don't intend to lose. So it's just a matter of frustration. You've got to kind of swallow it, grin and bear it, back to the drawing board and go again next week. Um, with the almost all due respect, and then on the drive home, you can call them whatever you want. Yeah, they can't
It's a
hear
good
you.
point. Yeah, Elliot Slessor said something similar. It's he's realistic. At one point, he is going to miss a shot. Every player misses a shot at some point.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
if the opponent is playing well and they clear up because of that, then
yeah,
there's not much he can do about it. Tip his hat, move on to the next frame.
yeah,
But start stewing on it when you expect. I suppose if you're arrogant enough to think that you're never going to miss a shot, then
yeah, yeah.
you're not in reality. It's like everyone's going to miss a
I
shot.
think
We're
what it
human.
is, I think you have times where you're playing so well and you're feeling so good that if you do miss a shot, you kind of deal with the first couple kind of I don't even know what the word is. You kind of gently. That's all I can think of at the minute. But like you kind of yeah, okay, that's not a problem. I've only missed one. I haven't. That's the first ball I've missed, or it wasn't an easy shot, or I haven't left nothing, or and then it may be one or two more. So what you're after now is you could potentially more frustration when you're chasing a perfect game. You're playing well, you're scoring well, and you know, like I one of my best games I played was against Lee Walker in the World Championship qualifiers, and I've had 3 centuries, and I came off, and I was like, "Wow, that was a good game," but I was almost disappointed I didn't have six. I've had like 58, 78, and 90 odd, and I'm thinking, I could have had 4 or 5 there, or could have had. Would have been a nice scorecard to look at, but I mean. I've had the highest break of the World Championships. I made a 145, and it held until Higgins made a maximum at the Crucible. Um, so you kind of you come home, you're disappointed. I lost the next round to Matt Selt. He played unbelievable. And I'm watching the TV back at home, and I'm like, well, it wasn't a bad game. Obviously everyone's talking about it. I did play well. It was a good feeling. However, there's always kind of there's that you'd always win or lose, but not to the kind of the scorecard you kind of desired. That's always the way, mate. If you get beat 4-3 on a respot black, you'd rather get beat 4-0 with 4 tons because it hurts less.
Yeah,
And if you win 4-3 on a respot black, you'd always want to win 4-0 with 4 tons because it's less heartache and frustration and kind of mental torture. And then you think, well, why didn't I just play that shot and I would have been over the line 3 frames ago? Or, so what Elliot's saying is, yeah, you'll always miss balls. You'll potentially always once a season or a couple of times a season lose your rag. Touching back on kind of the mental health side of the game, it's not easy, mate. And if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. So
well, yeah. I think the technical part. There are so many talented players, but the mental part of the game, as an armchair fan, is probably more difficult. From what I
yeah,
can see, from I've been watching snooker for 30+ years now, and it always
yeah,
seems that those who can handle it will always just have that little bit more. But it's the fine margins, though, isn't it? Roger Federer said that he only ever won 54% of the points he played. He's
hmm
one of the most successful players of all time. You'd think it would be a lot higher, but
yeah,
it's not actually that big a difference between being a goat and nothing
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
No, it's
Yeah, but
pretty
but
interesting.
sometimes it's always it can be in the eyes of the viewers as well. Who's the best player, and then you're always asking like who did you kind of who did you see as a junior, or who's the best player you've practiced against and stuff like that, and your answer would possibly be different. But I mean, when I was down in Essex, I played with some practiced with some great players, Bingham, Carter. I've been mates with Selby since we were juniors, I've practiced with him, and you know, unbelievable players. And then you say, right, well, there's a different answer. There's a different question. And in the heat of battle, in the semis or the final of the worlds, who do you choose out of them? And you're like, I choose John Higgins. You know what I mean? And it's like everyone kind of goes to that kind of that mainstream answer because it's what they're witnessing day in day out, and say you can't, stats don't lie, mate. And if the toughest players are coming through the toughest matches, then give them the trophy of mentally toughest players. But yeah, it's my saying, mate. If it was easy, we'd all be doing it. But yeah,
So that speaking of mental health, that's a pretty good segue actually, because you did spend a year off the tour, and it
yeah,
was during a time of, well, upheaval,
uh-huh.
maybe a little bit of chaos. It was during the COVID times,
Yeah,
so you're off
yeah,
the tour for 1 year. So we've seen recently one of the players, Stephen Hallworth, got a lot of credit for the way he was relegated from the tour, took a little step back, went to Q Tour, did okay. Obviously, shouts on
hmm
top, dominated the Q Tour last season,
yeah,
but
yeah,
Stephen got on at the first attempt again, and he played pretty well. I remember watching
hmm
that playoff final. How hard is that? I mean, because it's got to be. I don't know. I'm trying. I don't think I should put words in your
yeah,
mouth, but it's
yeah.
how what happened
Yeah,
there, and how did you come back?
yeah, yeah, it's definitely not an easy thing to take, but I mean, I think I've been relegated from the tour a few times. It was kind of I'd like to say relegated. It's almost like I've lost my tour card, because I haven't potted balls, I haven't won matches. And I think as the years go on, the kind of the experience and the older head on my shoulders, you've just got to take responsibility. You've got to kind of own your position on the tour. You've got to kind of you know yeah, I think it boils down to obviously your preparation and your matches and your victories and losses and stuff like that. That you get to at the end of the season and you just have to deal with it on facts. And the fact is, you're off the tour. Right, you come home, you tell the missus it's over. I've got to go to Q school. I've got to go on the Q tour, and I've qualified back on. The Q school a few times. I had that experience, and I've done it kind of first attempt. There was 1 year that I didn't. I lost to Alex Borg, and I played terrible. I had many chances to get back on, and at the time I was being helped by Coach John Farnworth, and he kindly gave me a lift home, and I just cried the whole way, and I don't even know why I was crying. I was like, it's only a game of snooker, but I just think it was because you've put all your effort into the entire season, and to kind of dip out after the World Championships and then go into the Q school and then not come through that. It was possibly a little bit of burnout, but in the long run, it's probably the best thing that ever happened to me. Just purely based on the fact that you were able to recharge your batteries, and then I had the fantastic opportunity of becoming, the master of ceremonies for the home nations events. So that opportunity wouldn't have arose if I was still on tour because the schedule doesn't allow. Now that season there was 10 Q tours, but I was only able to enter 5 of them because one was about 3 days after my wedding, which I don't think I was going to make that. Probably still hungover, if I'm honest. Um, and the other 4 were over the finals of the Home Nations events. The heartbreaking one was I was doing the Home Nations final in Cardiff for the Welsh Open, And down the road in Llanelli was the Q Tour, and I was like, can I just nip off and play a few matches and earn a few ranking points?
It'll just
But
be a few hours. It's fine.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
all I need. Can you cover for me? Get Rob Walker back in for an hour. Um, but yeah, listen, I mean, I wouldn't change that experience for anything, because that kind of taught me a valuable lesson. I was introducing players, and I just had the hunger back to be the player being introduced.
Hmm.
I mean, I was kind of thankful a lot of the lads was, even the top players. I even had comments off Ronnie and Higgins and players like that saying, I couldn't do what you do. I said, but they've been interviewed after winning tournaments, on the TV, doing all this media work. But it is slightly different. You're looking down the barrel, and you only get one shot at it. That's why Rob Walker and like the likes of Alan Hughes of old, fantastic, fantastic, role models. But yeah, I've really enjoyed it. And then as soon as I got back on tour, I couldn't wait to drop the mic and pick my cue back up.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but
Because
uh,
that's
but
what
yeah,
you really are.
that's
It's
exactly that. Yeah, I was a player
yeah,
first. Um, you know, I've done a little bit of commentary. Me kind of me hats in the ring in that kind of setup. I dipped my toe in the official podcast for World Snooker. Um, and them kind of things, I do enjoy them. Um, but yeah, solely I'm a player, like and that's kind of where I want to make me name, really. And all the other things, I'm thankful for the opportunities, and if they come later down the line, then obviously I'll take them. But I mean, I think your point of the question was, how was it? How tough was it? And it was tough. But I think them other opportunities kind of distracted me a little bit. I ended up winning one of the Q Tour events, had a semi final, and then I managed to win the playoffs. And I mean, the victory to get back on um, was I mean, I was 3-1 down to Oliver Brown, I think, in the first round of the playoffs. And then I beat the late Jake Nicholson, such a nice lad. He played great, and he kind of wished me well, said you played fantastic, such a gentleman as well. And then I ended up beating Adam Duffy, I think 4-0. And it was the fact that I won 4-0 was kind of like an achievement. It didn't matter who I was playing. It was just kind of like, I'm back. And then then I had the World Championship qualifying the following couple of days. Um, and I say it was played behind closed doors. The Q Tour playoffs was played in the practice room. It was in the practice room of the World Championships in EIS in Sheffield. So I mean, zero crowd. It was just me, the ref, and the other player. So exactly that. Yeah,
silence. It's yeah.
yeah. And yeah, crazy times, mate, crazy times. But thankfully and hopefully, we're way past that. And yeah, it was a lot to deal with, but at the same time, thankful for the distractions and the opportunities that I had to earn my card back, and the rest is history, as they say. Well,
Now, obviously, at one point you will, whether that be next week or in 20 years, whatever. At one point you will retire from playing.
yeah,
You say you dipped your toe into the WST official podcast.
yeah,
I mean, I've got to say, officially, you have actually stepped up. Technically, this one is more
yeah,
popular.
yeah.
So, is that something you would look at commentary, more commentary work, punditry work, analysis work? That's something that would
Ye-
interest you maybe
yeah,
down the line?
yeah. I think so. I mean, I'd done a stint for the Championship League, and got to work with Dave Hendon and Phil Yates. I mean, Dave's top of the pile for me. I mean, and I think working behind the scenes on the media, and you kind of see how they like kind of close a segment and finish a frame and finish a match. It is a talent. It's an experience.
Yeah,
Obviously, he's a stat man as well. He's obviously just brought his book out as well,
yeah.
and he's a boffin. But yeah, such a nice fella, and hopefully I get a call up and I can get some more commentary work, because it's different. Obviously, slightly more casual. You kind of you're making comments on what you're watching, which is slightly easier for us as players, because you kind of see the shots. It's also educational because you see the top players maybe choosing a different shot. Um, and I kind of think, if you're kind of open and honest with your views, I think that goes a little bit further these days. I think there's a lot of people who you kind of get stuck into the robotic, mundane kind of commentary vibe of just saying what you feel players that the audience want to hear, and I think it goes with the players are getting better, and I think the audience is getting more knowledgeable. That you've kind of got to respect them as well, and they're like, well, we know what he's playing, but just tell me what cue he's using, or tell me what tip or chalk, or why the reason, or who does he practice with, and I think it's just the way of the world as well. They kind of want to know more information about
Yeah,
what they're
yeah,
watching. They just kind of get that more personal touch to it. Um, but yeah, I mean, you've only got to look at the top, the Triple Crown events, and the crowds that get there, mate. They're the purists. They're the ones who kind of who kind of seek the long-winded safety battles as well as the 147s. Um, but yeah, I'd love to do a lot more commentary, a lot more punditry work. Obviously, alongside playing, like you mentioned, Hallworth there. I think he's doing a great job. I
Mhm.
mean, listen, mate. I don't think there's enough pies for his fingers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's doing all right.
He's doing all right. He's in the box. He's in the studio. He's on the table. He's on the podcast. He's doing everything, mate. And good luck to him. I think he's good for the game. So, but yeah, if opportunities arise for me, then I'll take him. But I will mention that I am on your podcast, mate, and it is higher ranked. So listen, I'm in my eyes, I've made it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's it. Well, I said this to Florian Nussler
Yeah,
after he got through the Q Tour playoffs.
yeah.
I said, well, but now your career's taken an extra step up. You're on the Snooker
This,
Hall podcast
this
now,
is
mate. It's
this is it, mate. This is it.
this is what you really wanted all
We all
along. It's
started in a snooker hall, and now we're finishing on Snooker Hall podcast. This is the pinnacle, my mate. Right?
yeah, full circle. That's what it
Yeah,
is. Yeah.
that's it, mate. Yeah.
But well, okay. So you're on tour. What are your aims for the season? If you had one goal, what would it be?
Uh, well, listen, I've got a couple of goals, but if I had to choose one, it would be obviously getting to the 64. I think I was currently 73 at the minute. So I've got a little bit of work to do. I feel like I'm in a better place. Kind of practice wise, I've moved, like I said before, it's only recently I've moved into a new practice facility just down the road from where I live. They've welcomed me in open arms. So I've got somewhere to kind of tune my game up, and it's in my hands to make that happen. I think another goal. Obviously, there's a lot of players. You want to qualify for the Crucible for the first time. I've had the luxury of actually performing after Judd beat Higgins in the World Final. He finished with the session to spare, so I was actually drafted in by the late Brandon Parker to do me impressions in the Crucible Theatre. One table set up. I walked down them magical stairs, mate, and it wasn't that scary. I'll be honest with you. So I really love to obviously, walk down there in a playing tournament. But I think if without kind of putting your neck on the line and saying everyone want to go to the Crucible, I think to taste Judgment Day again, because that season I beat Ricky Walden to get there, lost to Scott Donaldson heavily. And to be fair, that was kind of burnout because I just saved me tour card by beating Ricky. Um, and I think subconsciously I'd kind of took my foot off the gas. I tried everything. I gave Scott the utmost respect. He's such a nice lad as well. Wished him well, and I was trying everything to give him a game, and I couldn't do that. So I think to taste Judgment Day and kind of feel what it's like coming out on the right side of that, that's kind of another kind of end goal for me. But yeah, magic would be obviously to get into the 64 and push on up the rankings from there, mate.
And you mentioned Ricky Walden there. Did I hear
Yeah,
that you do some practice with Ricky?
from time to time. Yeah, from time to time. He's a hard man to pin down, but like most of the top players, if they're kind of at other tournaments or in other ranking events and stuff. And yeah, I mean, I've a couple of practice partners. My regular one's Robbie Williams. He's kind of he's in the next street, or his table is anyway. I mean, we grew up together. I think he reminded me not long back that I showed him how to do the lineup in the club when he was about 11. We've been that mate. We've been mates for almost 30 years. I love him as a brother. He was the best man at my wedding, and for him to remind me, I mean. This is it's going back to the football at the start, mate. I think I was wearing. Well, he reminded me I was wearing a Tranmere Rovers goalkeeper top. I don't know it was the gold one or the white one. I can't remember now. But he said I walked in and you were doing the lineup, and he thought, "Wow, what's that?" And that's how we became mates. We've turned pro together. We practice together, travel the world together. It's fantastic to see another local lad doing well. And I mean, he's a great player as well. Like so, um, same. There's a couple of lads I practice with, Ian Burns. And it's kind of based around. I mean, he's got two kids as well, Ian. So it's based around like kind of family issues. If you can kind of get a game, and he might be short days. But there's a few young lads I practice with as well. I mean, Patrick Whelan. I think he's finished maybe second or third on the Q Tour ranking, the Q School ranking list. So he's a top up most this season. Great player, great attitude. Um, and the young lad Ethan Llewellyn. He's just won the English under-21s there this weekend. One of the first event anyway. Um, Great talent again, heaps of knowledge. So it's kind of good for me. I've got various sparring partners, up and down the rankings, as well as kind of these whiz kids who want to take over. You've got to kind of keep you on your toes.
Yeah. So and I suppose it's different, like playing like Ricky Borden. Like he's a veteran. Like he's been around a number of years. He's won a couple of ranking tournaments. But
Yes, yeah.
against a young lad who's, say, part of the next generation, is different styles,
Yeah,
different ways of approaching. Maybe one.
yeah,
The cliche is that the younger player would be more carefree, like just attacking. Nah, let's just go for it. And
yeah.
whereas, I don't know if that's always the case, but no, yeah, different.
Different approach. I think even
Yeah,
that. I think even that's changing. I think even these young players are kind of learning a little bit earlier in the kind of junior careers. Anyway, that it's not all gung ho and smacking balls in down the rail. Which is where I was brought up, and I've been guilty of still doing that on tour to this day. Which kind of leads me on to the fact that I've started working with Anthony Hamilton. Now he's retired and he's become a coach. He's working with a couple of players on tour. And I asked him, and he was over the moon that I actually asked him, which was it was nice. It was nice to hear that that he was kind of happy that I've come to him. It's kind of I've got a lot of respect for him as a human being as well as a snooker player. And his knowledge of the game, is well, it's unprecedented, really. He's one
yeah.
of
What?
yeah. I actually said to him, my opening gambit was, I was so happy to see you retire because then I can ask for your help.
Yeah, yeah. What he doesn't know isn't really worth knowing, and he's seen. Ah, he must have seen everything over the years.
Yeah, I mean, he was
He,
part of the Ilford crew, wasn't he, with like Ronnie, and I think when Doherty first came over, and he's
yeah,
probably seen players come and go that I've never even heard of. You know, you know, I know Ronnie always bangs on about a player called Patsy Houlihan, and it's them types of styles of players that probably never even made it to the tour. That he was probably learning from. He's got all that to kind of pass on, plus his playing experience against the top lads under the pressure, and obviously winning the German was the pinnacle for him. That it's fantastic to see him get his hands on a trophy, and I'm very grateful that he's opened his arms and he's willing to work with me, because I think that's kind of the stepping stone that I need. And I'm known as being an attacking player, and and stuff like that. But it doesn't always win the trophies, does it? You can see Judd, one of the best players on the planet, and he's refusing more balls than Selby these days, because he knows what it takes to kind of stay at the top. And and yeah, I'm really looking forward to working with him for the rest of the season.
So, so you're working with Anthony, but you say he's working with a few people. I've spoken
Yeah,
to Joe Perry a couple of times in the past, and
yeah,
he works with Neil Robertson. But
yeah,
kind of the arrangement they have is Neil's like, okay, if you're working with me, we're exclusive, kind of thing.
yeah, yeah,
But so with I know with well, you hear the name Chris Henry
yeah. I've
thrown
worked with
around,
Chris. Yeah,
but he seems to work with a number of players. I'm sure he has a limit. He won't work with like 50 players
yeah,
at the same time. But this man is in demand, it would appear.
yeah.
And well, for example, Peter Ebdon was there with Sean Murphy
Uh huh.
at the British Open.
Yeah.
Joe Perry, it seems, goes everywhere with Neil Robertson. If you're
Hmm.
working with Anthony Hamilton, Fergal O'Brien as well, working with Aaron
Yeah.
Hill. So these former
Yeah.
players
Yeah.
They like if you've got the knowledge and the experience, you pass that on to the next
Yes.
generation.
Yeah.
Even if, and this is a tangent, even if it is someone who doesn't lack experience, like Neil Robertson, Sean
Hmm.
Murphy, like they're not rookies, they're former
Yeah.
world
Yeah. Yeah.
champions, both of them,
Yeah. Yeah.
and but yet they still trust these more senior players or now ex players
Yeah.
to kind of give them good guidance, and whether it's just yeah, the idea of coaching is fascinating, and it's because I always, as a layman, I always thought once you get to a certain level, you don't need coaching, but it would
Yeah.
appear that maybe you do, and because you can never achieve perfection.
No, no, but I think most of the time it's having a soundboard. It's having someone who's been there and done it, and who knows kind of you personally, who knows what you're thinking, who can watch the game and analyze it positively. Because if something goes wrong, if you come off a defeat, the last thing you need is someone trying to tell you what you've done wrong. One glance at someone like Anthony, who's that experienced, and he knows what you've done wrong, but he knows to also give you half an hour's grace before you rip the steering wheel off your car. And then he's give me a call on the way home, son, and I'll sort you out. And by that time, once the dust has settled, you can kind of work positively on making them corrections or them changes. And someone like Joe, he's obviously was a practice partner in the same club with Neil. They're obviously good mates, they're good pals, so he knows even his mannerisms. you know he doesn't look right today. Something's have a little chat in the interval, pick up on a thing. And when you're in the battle arena, it's so hard. Like I was saying before with the etiquette, you can be somewhere else, and if someone can see that and put the finger on it and kind of snap you out of it, and refocus for the job in hand, that then's invaluable. That can be the difference between kind of letting the match kind of play its course, or getting to grips and making a vital change. But yeah, I mean, listen, Ronnie's the best player on the planet, and still will be until he kind of hangs his cue up. And he's been through every single coach, and I just think he's at the point where he's trying to master the game, and every little tiny piece that you can pick up off other players and other coaches. And I've had my fair share of coaches myself, like you mentioned, Chris. I've worked with Chris, um, and I was kind of guilty of not believing it 100%. But if you fast forward, there's elements that I use daily in practice and during matches, skills that he's gave me that I've kind of sunken in over time. Now, the fact that you've got I've got like Anthony on board now is, I can speak to him before, during, and after the game, and your respect for someone's knowledge like that, who's been there and done it and seen the best doing it as well. It's so vital, I think. Just, and again, just purely because you're not coming off and trying to explain yourself. You listen. I've got mates who back me 100%. But they're not snooker players. They can watch me, they can know me as a person, but they don't know me as a snooker player. So for them to try and tell me what I've done right and wrong, I'm like, just please stop talking, mate. You know, it's with all due respect, just give me that half an hour's grace before I turn the air blue. Um, but like you say, you can come off and you can debrief with a coach, or like you were saying, all these ex players. Um, and I mean, Aaron Hill, you mentioned in brief. He's a very good friend of mine. Again, another treat him like a brother. I'm very lucky. I've got my own queue business, AP Northwest Queues, and he's using one of our queues. Um,
And
and
he's doing all right with it, it would appear.
I put after he made his second maximum yesterday. I did put a comment on the Facebook. I wish I kept hold of that queue for myself, because it seems to be the
Nice.
one that's working. But yeah, I mean, fantastic, and the fact that he's working with Fergal O'Brien, it doesn't surprise me. The steps that he's made. He came over to the UK. He was staying with his uncle in Liverpool, and I gave him the key to my practice unit, and I just wanted to help him, because I know it's tough. He's away from home. He's trying to find his feet on the tour, and to see the difference between that lad and the kind of the player you see in the interview yesterday after his maximum. Obviously, that's a massive influence that Fergal's had on him, but at the same time, you can't force a player to become something. You've got to be in you, and that lad's got buckets and buckets, and I wouldn't be surprised if he gets to the top of the game and wins the world championship. I mean, I rate him very highly, and even though he's a younger lad than me, and I've kind of tried to help him out with my experience, that flips then, just a little conversation, at tournaments, or just a little like, come on, it kind of, it's nice to have a couple of players who are kind of in your corner until you draw each other, of course. But
Then the friendship is out the window. Yeah,
yeah,
it's
because then it's just business, and it's just a nice game of snooker. You're gonna have a handshake and a hug at the end, and may the best man win. And I think flipping back to the etiquette kind of thing, if someone kind of plays well or deserves the victory, you've just got to swallow it and grin and bear it and move on. And if it's a friend, well, at least one of us is doing well. Um, Sometimes it hurts a little bit more because they've got bragging rights then down the club, which isn't nice.
yeah. Then the beers are then the drinks are on you. It's
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely.
yeah,
The drinks are on you because you earned more money this week. Oh well, you suffered that
yeah.
one.
Oh well, more money. No.
Yeah,
But
exactly. Yeah, shame.
does for Anthony, would he travel with you, or just would he go to these tournaments and just so he's available? If you want to bounce
Yeah,
some ideas off him, vent,
yeah,
whatever it may be, he will be at most of the tournaments.
yeah. So I mean, kind of the timing of this podcast is pretty well to link through that because I'm going for a session with him tomorrow. He's based himself back on his old stomping ground in Nottingham, so I'm traveling down there for a day's session. We can work on a few things, get a few notes together, and kind of make a plan going forwards for the upcoming tournaments. And it's kind of like, yeah, so he'll be at most tournaments now. Obviously he's got a couple of players there, so there's a chance you'll bump into him in the players' lounge. But that kind of arrangement is kind of kind of personal between a player and a coach if they want them there, if they don't. Some people want them in the crowd and making notes. Others, like, I'll speak to you on the phone after I've finished. Um, I'm kind of more that way inclined, if I'm totally honest with you. I don't need someone praying over my shoulder. Just someone, like I said, a soundboard who kind of knows what I'm thinking or what and you come off and Anthony says, "What were you playing that shot for?" And I said, "I knew you were going to bring that one up." you know,
So why
um,
did you do it?
yeah,
Yeah.
you sound like him. Leave me alone. But that's what you say. Like, if you've got someone in the practice room, or just even just 5 minutes on the phone before your match, if they can't be there, whatever, that's like you say, that's invaluable. That and yeah, I'm really looking forward to how the season plays out now under his wing, kind of thing.
Yeah. As I said before, if you can't learn something from Anthony Hamilton, then
Mhm.
that's on you, not him. It's yeah. If you can't take some knowledge from what he has, like
Yeah,
his
that's
30
what
plus
that's what
years,
I'm scared
it's
of, Dan. I've got no more excuses. Son, the book has ran out.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, well, Anthony's retired. We've seen a few veteran players retire recently. This is Joe Perry called it a day. Dominic Dale called it a day, and that's Anthony.
hmm
We've got a few players who are in the 50s. Ken Doherty still going. He's 56 now, I believe.
Well, yeah,
But well, the class of '92, Ronnie O'Sullivan is almost 50. He's all but 50. The other two are. The age range on the tour these days is pretty spectacular. We've got a 14-year-old lad on tour. 14 years old, and he's winning
awesome.
matches as well, which is
Yeah, great player. Yeah,
mind-boggling.
yeah,
But there's a lot of young lads, so 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds. Like these
hmm
guys are, I don't want to say they're sponges, but they can learn so much. Okay, they have talent, but
yeah,
talent alone ain't enough. You need to know how to play.
yeah.
And Louis Heathcote said it to me. He's a better player now than he was 5 years ago. And it just, when you say it like that, it just makes sense because, well, of course
Yeah,
he is. He's
yeah,
got a lot more practice under his belt, but it's just a lot more, the word you
yeah,
used earlier, battle scars,
yeah,
like a painful defeat. It's like, I never want that again. If I have to avoid it and if I have to do this and this to avoid
yeah,
it, I'll do it. But then if it gets you the win, then who cares?
yeah.
It's that experience factor is, I think it's more valuable than
Mm.
I think many
Yeah, I mean,
would say.
I think like you can't put a price on experience. It's an old cliche, but you just got to get out there. And I think there's a lot of young lads, and they're like, oh, I don't know whether to enter Q school. It's a lot of money, and it is. It's a big investment, but the investment comes way before that. The investment becomes, how much you play practicing. It doesn't come for free, and some players are lucky to get sponsored by the snooker club free light. If they see talent in them, they might kind of throw them a few quid. But sponsors are hard to find, especially as a junior. You know what I mean? When I was a kid, it was kind of like enter everything, and if you won, you use that prize money to pay for the next one. But you've got Q Tour events, English events, European events. It feels as if like the young guns. Well, I would call them the young guns, but the juniors and the amateur game, they're kind of traveling more than we are, or at the same level anyway. They're here, there, and everywhere. The opportunities are, yeah, humongous for them in the sense of turning pro. There's probably about 4 or 5 channels they can get through now. Um, You've got Europeans, you've got Q tours, you've got Q school, you've got playoffs, you've got, you know, you've got a lot of, you've got, even if you get entry into the main events, they've got the 1 year list if they do well enough. So the opportunities to turn pro are there. Like you say, you've got to kind of put the hard work and the graft and stuff. But for me, if you're playing matches day in, day out, tournaments every single weekend, you cannot put a price on that. Like you say, just learning how to lose, learning how to win. And when you get to the big events, say the Q School is the pinnacle of the amateur game. If you haven't turned pro already, and you've got young lads questioning the cost value, it's a couple of weeks, hotels, you got travel, food, drink, the entry fee. You've got to buy a suit. Some of them haven't got like and you've got all that expense, and for me, it's just an investment in yourself. It's the worst that can happen. You get beat. And there's only 8 spots available. There's probably about 200 people going home losers, but there's still opportunities off the back of that. Like the Q School top up list, they get like get entry into a couple of tournaments a year. They get to taste that, and that investment in yourself, whether it be emotionally, financially, hard graft, whatever it may be, that all boils down to whether you've got the old school word bottle or not to do the
Mm.
job. It all adds up, and I think kind of I've said it before in probably in jest, but I think my generation, sound an old man saying that, in my day back in the
Oh, in
war.
my day,
Oh yeah, yeah. You
but
don't know. How lucky you've
old
got it,
man,
son. Yeah,
old man shouts at cloud. Yeah.
yeah. We used to deal with four different coloured reds and a light white. Under a shade with only 2 bulbs in. But yeah, I think my generation was kind of the last kind of working man's club, if you want to call it that. You'd have to go down to the local club and play on any table in any conditions. If it was slow, you hit the ball harder. If it was fast, you just did a bit softer. If the pockets were bigger, you enjoyed yourself. If they weren't, you had to play, a bit careful. Whereas now, the conditions, even around the country in different clubs, everyone's on a star table with heaters and 1G balls and shiny lights. And, oh, it's brilliant. It's perfect. But there's more excuses because the heaters weren't on number 40. You know what I mean? Um, but yeah, I mean, I say you could, my point is the fact that where we've come from, pre-war days in the old school clubs, or even now to the fresh academies, the recipe doesn't change, mate. You've still got to put the hours in. You've still got to put your neck on the line. You've still got to invest in yourself and work hard. Um, and kind of like my advice to any kind of young and up and coming player is to obviously, work hard, try and choose your practice partners or your coach like a like-minded, kind of people. It's a competitive, it's cutthroat, it's an individual sport, so they might wish you well, but they might not mean it. And never ever take your talent for granted. I mean, I was guilty of that potentially in my junior days. Didn't turn pro since I was 28. I was kind of a veteran before I even made it as such, or made it onto the tour. And I think that advice of hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. I think that rings true a lot. So yeah. if any youngsters out there, just get your cue out, put the hours in, stop moaning, and just can try and do more than the next fella.
No, well said. Well said. If player A doesn't step up and put in the work, player B will,
Yeah,
or
definitely. Yeah,
player C will. Somebody else will. Yeah, it's
somebody will. Yeah, yeah,
yeah. No, I appreciate your time, man. It's good to get some thoughts from the player's point of view. It's been a little while since I've had a player on, actually. Yeah, it's been a few months.
yeah. Well, I'm thankful you chose me, mate. Thanks very much.
Yeah. No. I appreciate the insight. There were a few. I've learned quite a bit today, actually, and that's one of the reasons I do the podcast. I can only learn a certain amount, and I've been watching the sport for 30 years. There are still things I don't know, and
Yeah,
speaking to people like you, whether it be a player, referee, coach, journalist, whoever it is, might learn
yeah,
something new, and if it helps other people learn, then
yeah. It's
that's all
fantastic,
for
mate.
better. Yeah.
I mean, listen,
Uh,
the stuff that I don't know and the stuff that I'll never learn. I'll probably retire and hang me queue up, and you know, you'd be watching one day, should have done that. But this is the beauty of this game. You never stop learning. I don't think there's been one frame of snooker where the balls have ever landed in the same place twice. So
exactly.
it's such a mesmerizing game. I think it started off when I was a kid just by enjoying the coloured balls and the sound of them crunching the back of the pocket, and I don't think that's changed, if I'm honest.
It's a good
Um,
sound. Yeah.
it's a great sound, yeah. But yes, mate. I've enjoyed my journey, and hopefully, I've got a long way to go and a lot more successes around the corner. But like you said before, mate, that's on me, and I'm willing to put the work in to get there. So I appreciate the chat, mate. I do.
No, I wish you luck for the coming season and beyond. A few words on what's coming up on the Snooker Hall podcast before we wrap up. There will be a few more guests coming on over the coming weeks and months. Dates not quite confirmed yet because people are busy these days. But keep an eye on social media for dates. Liam Pullum will be the next player guest on the show. We'll get a youthful view from him. No offense, Alan. But
Yeah.
and there will be some guests from other parts of the snooker world as well. Alan, once again, thanks for your time. I really appreciate you taking the time to speak on the Snooker Hall podcast.
Thanks, Dan, and best of luck with the podcast, mate.
Thanks. I'll see you soon. Take care.
Cheers, mate. Bye.